we've actually had somebody send in a request for something for us to talk about.
Ooh.
I know. I was quite excited because, see, I'm laughing at the whole idea of it. Because and I can't find the original message that she sent. It was quite detailed, but I remember the concept, the idea behind it. So the idea behind it is being shit.
What, in the literal sense or the kind of proverbial sense?
No, it's just generally being shit at life. So, so how do you cope with, or how do we cope with now being shit at everything? And
well,
this has been something, as you know, it's been on my mind all week. I mean, it's on my mind for 17 months, but this week I've had a particularly shit week. And you've been ill.
Last week I had a really shit week.
So how do we, in this situation, I don't have any answers for this at all. I still struggle with it psychologically. So how do we now cope with life when we're so shit at it? Like we're not good at, we don't have the energy to do any of the things that we used to do. So what does it mean? I think I'm interested in, what does it mean to be shit at life? How do we cope with it? How do we look at our life before when we weren't shit at it?
Oh, that's a matter of opinion though, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole thing's very subjective.
Like, you've got to put things into perspective, haven't you? Because, you know, what is shit? I mean, I would class, you know, being shit at life is a bigger question actually than having a shit day. So if you take it back to sort of like really simple terms, having a shit day, then how do I get through a shit day? I don't know. I just hope and pray that I'm going to wake up the next day and it's not going to be a shit one. I literally wing it. I don't know. How do you cope with a really bad day?
I can cope with a bad day. I can cope with 2 bad days. But I think any more than that, I don't cope with that very well at all.
But you have been coping, just like me. We say that we don't cope with it, but we're still here and we bounce back.
We do.
So we are coping. It just doesn't feel like it on those days.
It doesn't. I think it's such a funny topic. We might be coping with being ill on that day, and we might be coping with everything feeling like it's really bad and we're having a bad day. But how do we cope with not being able to do life the way that we used to do it? And for me, that to me, and this is something I'm still struggling with, this is I don't know how to, and I might get emotional actually talking about it. I don't know how to cope with being so shit at trying to do the life that I used to do before. So for example, in my head, and I fully understand this is a not a mental health issue. This is a something psychologically I need to deal with. That would be the more appropriate way to put it. So in my head, I'm shit at running my business now.
Well, I haven't got a business, so try being shitter than that.
Okay, see, that would be something. That's when we have those conversations with ourselves about, okay, it could be worse. Is that the way we deal with being shit? Do you think, is that a helpful way to deal with?
I don't think there's some helpfulness to it, but the trouble is, you know, you go through this endless cycle of comparing yourself to other people and other situations when actually that sometimes isn't as helpful because it's very subjective to you in here and now. So, you know, for example, some people that are going through a really bad mental health crisis, their problems to us could seem fairly small, and you know, not insignificant, but on the grand scheme of life and people's problems and issues that you see in the world, you know, someone that is actually on the verge of taking their own life, their problems to us as outsiders might seem very small, but to them, they're everything. They're all consuming. So it's really difficult to kind of compare how bad you're feeling with wider issues. You know, we can all say it can get worse. You know, someone that I respect a lot in our community, actually, who is constantly speaking her truth, and I think she must upset a lot of people, is Aggie, because she tells her truth brutally. She doesn't cushion it for anyone, and she's trying so many treatments. She's tried so many treatments over the year. For anyone that doesn't know Aggie, she was an ME sufferer before she got vaccine injured, so she's had a double whammy, and she was extremely fit before. And I can really resonate with Aggie, because, you know, she said, you know, to live a life without movement and without going to the gym and pumping some weights just isn't life for her. And, you know, when we start comparing our lives to other people's, you are belittling the way you feel, and that's not the way to deal with it. You've got to embrace it. I mean, from my own perspective, you know, as you know, my life, this isn't the first time my whole life has been turned upside down. So, you know, back in 2004, I overnight, my whole life changed, because my fiance died, father to my two children, from a brain hemorrhage. And, you know, everything that I thought was going to happen and plans that I had in my life completely changed. And suddenly I was a single parent to two children, had to take on all the, you know, all the financial implications of that. I didn't feel, you know, I'd kind of grown up with their dad being around, so we got together when we were teenagers, and, you know, I'd never had to kind of live on my own or support myself, because I'd always had him as a crutch there, and my life was completely changed, you know, overnight. And it's a very similar situation to this, because you kind of grieve the life. There's an element of grief to it, isn't there? Do you feel that?
I do. But the idea of you're talking a lot about comparing yourself to other people, which is definitely that's something I think all of us need to do. I don't do that personally. I compare myself to myself, and that's the bit that I struggle with. I don't actually look at what's happening with other people. It's more being so very aware of what I was capable of doing before, and compared to what I'm capable of doing now.
And that's where the grief element comes in, because that's where you start to grieve how you used to be. Because when you come to a level of acceptance, you know, especially like you and I have now been ill and unable to do those things for months and months, and, you know, well over a year now. That's when you start to grieve. You accept the fact that you're ill, you're chronically ill, and then you start to grieve the life that you did have, don't you?
Have you fully accepted it?
I'd say 6 out of 7 days, yes. And then I'll have a flare up, or I'll be missing out on a family event, or I'll miss out on a social occasion, or I'll be having a bit of an emotional day, and I'll see a post about someone going on a trip that I've always wanted to go on, or, you know, just something silly. And suddenly I'm not I realise I haven't accepted it as much as I thought I had. So, you know, because I'm sitting here and, you know, people looking at me might think, she doesn't look ill. She doesn't look ill. What's she on about? What's she going? But I'm actually laying in bed, the only thing I've managed to do today, because anything I do provokes my symptoms, so the only thing I've managed to do today is water my garden. And in doing that, my heart rate quickly shot up to, so it was 75, I think, sitting down. And then as soon as I started watering the garden, I started feeling shaky and like I was going to faint. And I checked my watch and it was nearly up to 150. Then I had to lay down for half an hour. Getting dressed does a similar thing, you know, and it makes your life very small. And I think I've said this before, doesn't it? Your life becomes very small. Those things that, and I was watering the garden thinking this, I was thinking, I used to rush back from work and in my lunch hour, water the garden, walk the dogs, you know, maybe do a bit of hoovering. And it would be, I wouldn't think anything of it, going out in the garden, watering my plants. But now it's a humongous task.
So does that task become more meaningful to you?
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
And in giving that small task that didn't mean much to you before, it was something you just kind of an aside, you just got done, you know, quickly on your lunch break. If you give that more meaning, does that help you not feel that you're being shit at life? Do you think, well, I've achieved that, I've done that? I suppose I've used the word achieve. That's a whole other kind of, if you're an overachiever, which I am, then that I need to feel like every day I'm achieving something.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling with that, particularly when I have a bad week, which I've had this week. So do you find yourself, if you give that small task more meaning than it had before, does that help?
I think so. And you know, even like you've talked recently about feeling overwhelmed because you've got a lot of things on a to-do list that you just haven't been able to do because you've felt so rubbish. And you know, I'm the same. You know, a Wednesday is when my task is to sort out my, oh, where are they? My pills for the week in my pill container. And you know, just doing that, and it's a minor task. It shouldn't be a task. It should be easy, but just getting them all out of the cupboard and portioning them out for the week and then putting everything back in the cupboard is a lot of effort. You know, so yeah, I think you can find meaning in small things. I think that's important, you know, whether you're ill or not, to find meaning in the smaller things in life. However, it doesn't mean to say you have to feel satisfied with that type of life. You know, at what point do you give in and just say, I'm going to be happy with just watering my garden today? You know, or do you keep striving for the old life that you had? You know, because for me at the moment, my old life seems like something I could never achieve again.
Same. One of the things, the phrases, it's interesting you mentioned Aggie. Actually, I read a lot of her posts when they come up, and I love her writing, and I love her brutal honesty. Actually, I like that. And there was a phrase that has stayed with me all week that she used, and that phrase was scraps of existence. And it perfectly explained how I feel, I think. And I don't know how to live that kind of life. I've had a very, very, very full life. And when I'm feeling okay and accepting, and I have a little bit of quality of life, just a little bit each day, you know, what I've settled with, I think that's okay, I can do this. Yeah, it's different. And I look back on the really full life that I've had, and I look back at it and think, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I traveled around the world and I did, one, written books and done all these, wild and crazy things, but also very full of compassion, those kinds of things. I've done a lot of different interesting things. I'm so glad, and I take comfort. But then take comfort in the memory of those. But then when I have a week like this week, where the scraps of existence are really tiny and possibly not, it doesn't feel at the time that they're there at all. I look back on those memories with sadness, and they almost make everything feel worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Like Aggie, I really miss getting up on a Saturday morning and running down to the gym and doing, an hour or two a class or something like that, and some weights, and then having a shower, and I'd be back home by sort of 10 a.m. And then, that's my day had just started when I got home from the gym. The gym was like the start, and yeah, it is difficult, I think, I don't know, I'm the sort of person that I like to think that I can see things like this as challenges that will enrich my life further, because that's one thing I learned from things that happened to me earlier on in my life, is that actually when you go through something very, very traumatic and life-changing, it can have really extreme life lessons for you, good ones, really, that shape who you are as a person. You get these little things throughout your normal daily life that might not shape you, but they teach you something small. But when you go through something really big, a really big ordeal, there's some really important stuff in there to learn if you let yourself. But will I accept being like this for the rest of my life? I don't know. I think I'm getting there, but I'm still trying to get better. So does acceptance mean you give up hope for getting better? Do you just draw a line under getting better, or do you keep trying to get better? Where does that, at what point do you just accept being shit?
And you have to then look at the definition of being shit, don't you? And what's your definition of a full life? And that's the bit that's tricky. I think you have to redefine what does a non-shit life look like, don't you? I think that's I feel like I've accepted to some extent, and then if I have a rough week, no, I haven't actually accepted it at all. I'm still fighting it. And I feel like everything is so much easier if I don't fight. If you just ease into feeling crap and needing a day where you don't do anything, if you stop fighting it, it's all so much easier. And if you're not fighting, that's got to be better for your body, hasn't it? But if you're not fighting, does that mean you've given up hope? And is giving up hope totally okay, because hope means you're living right in that moment? And we talk a lot, don't we, about, like, some people say in the vaccine injury groups, they talk about, have hope. And I don't know if I feel like that about hope. I feel like hope's a bit false. I feel like I want to be better at living in this moment, and that's the thing that I want to focus on.
I think if you can be better at living in this type of moment, then you've pretty much cracked it, haven't you?
And sometimes I think I've got that, and then there's a week like this week where I realise actually I haven't got that at all. And it's people like Aggie and other people who've lived this life for much, much, much longer than we have. Those are the people that I want to learn from them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's I think I've said it before. We had a conversation, didn't we, in our meeting this week, because we've decided to put trigger warnings on things, because obviously some people in the groups might be a little bit sensitive to some posts that, things that talk about suicide, or symptoms that might be a bit worrying, that things that might trigger some people. And I actually brought up in the meeting, and I was very honest, I said, actually, sometimes positive posts trigger me. People that, and I'm not pointing any fingers. Anyone watching this that does this, please don't stop doing it, because I do sometimes enjoy them. But sometimes if I'm having a really shit day and I see, don't give up hope, I just trekked up a mountain and it's all great and it's all going to be good, it's all flowery, the world is great, it's all beautiful, and I'm like, no, it's not though, is it? You're not recovered though, are you? I'm 85%. That's not recovered, is it? Come back when you're 100%. Tell me you're 110%, and then I'll be like, yes.
I used to say, this was about a year ago actually, and I used to say, oh, I'm 55% recovered. And some of my posts, Facebook comes and reminds you of the memory thing. So some of them have been coming up. And this week, actually, I don't think this helped me at all this week, but they've been coming, oh, I'm 55% recovered. And I remember because I was having regular counselling at that point. And I remember talking to my counsellor about, I'm 55%, and I'm okay, I'm okay. And she said very kindly, she said, but are you? And we had a conversation that made me think, well, no, I wasn't running again. I was nowhere near running again. I wasn't active at all. I wasn't even working in my business until it was the 4th of August when I did the first bloodletting. So this time last year, I wasn't even working my business. So, and I had to be really realistic about, actually, I'm nowhere near recovered. And when people say things like, oh, I'm 90% recovered, I think, are you doing 90% of what your life was before? And they're not. And I think that 90% is more reflective of how much acceptance we have. So you've 90% accepted it. I think that's a little bit more realistic.
And we do need those posts, and there are some people that obviously aren't coping as well as you or I seem to be.
Yeah, but this is all, I mean, we talk off camera, and we know that we don't cope as well as we look like we might be coping right now in this moment and this conversation.
No.
So we need to be kind of quite upfront about that we don't cope anywhere near as well as we sometimes look.
And people do need those positive posts. Some people need to see it. I'm sure they've saved a few lives, so they're important. However, for me, they're not always honest. But that's just me. I'm a bit cynical. I'm a realist. That's the problem. I am more of an Aggie. I would rather be brutally honest than lie even a small amount about something like that. But that's just me. The day I say that I'm 100% recovered, I will be 100% recovered. No doubt about it. If that ever happens.
I find comfort in people who post things like Aggie posts. That brutal honesty, I have respect for it. I find comfort, I find familiarity, and I recognize it. That to me feels a little bit more reflective of what we're going through. And I have so much respect for people who can be as brutally honest as that publicly. There are people who actually, just this week, I had an email from somebody who had not mentioned anything. They haven't said a thing publicly. And I think there are a lot more people like that who are still struggling alone, haven't said anything to anybody, their friends or family or anything about it. But it's posts like the ones that Aggie makes that makes people know that they're not actually alone, even if they feel they are, and even if they haven't talked to anybody about it yet.
Yeah, and it's that thing as well, you know, it's, you always get someone, the immediate human reaction when someone posts something like that or says something like that to you in person is to try and fix that person. So the immediate reaction normally to someone saying something like Aggie does, and I've noticed a lot of her friends don't do it because they know, but the human reaction is to try and fix it for someone. So as soon as you say, you know what, this is what my life is like, it's rubbish, I'm never going to accept it, this is how it is, this is how I feel, someone will normally come along and say, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have, you know, maybe if you tried this therapy, or, you know, I know a friend that did this diet and, you know, within 6 weeks she was fixed. And there's this need to fix you, isn't there? There's this need to, and it's you know, people aren't doing it to offend you, they're doing it to try and help. Well, they're doing it to make themselves feel better, like they've offered you something, like they're helping the situation, that's what they think they're doing. But actually all the person that is confiding in you or posting is just wanting you to acknowledge their feelings. They don't need to be fixed. They know that they've tried all these things, they know that they're trying them. They're, you know, people that are chronically ill are desperate to get well. They're desperate, they try everything, they buy every gadget, they buy every supplement, they try every diet, they try everything that you could find on the internet. People will try because they want to fix themselves more than what you want to fix them. So you know, it can feel a little bit insulting sometimes when someone says to you, have you tried? Because you can bet your life that that person has been researching their illness since they got ill to try and fix themselves. And it's almost like a little bit of an insult that you haven't been trying to fix yourself, that you haven't done everything to fix yourself, and it can be taken the wrong way.
Yeah, I think I'm at the stage now where I get mildly irritated when people say, oh, have you tried this and have you done that, and you just and or they send links that are, you know, we saw them on the groups months ago, like 6 months ago. They'll send links and you just think, look, I'm not sitting here doing nothing, I'm really doing everything that I can and researching everything I can to try and get better. Do you think that's why some of our friends have become distant from us, because that it's human nature to want to fix somebody who's in pain? Kind, good people genuinely want to try to help people, and they want to fix people. And if this is something nobody can fix, so there aren't any answers, we're having to accept that or not accept it. And maybe some of our friends have to accept that too. And because that's difficult for them, do you think maybe that's why some of them have become a little bit distant, because they just don't know what to do?
I think so. I think it's probably, with friends, it's probably a combination of that, the fact that we can't plan to do anything with friends because we never know how we're going to feel. So we can let people down very often. You know, there's no more late nights drinking sessions, or, you know, there's it completely changes the dynamics, doesn't it, of your life and your relationships that you have with people, because, you know, you're not reliable anymore. I'm not reliable, are you?
No. I won't agree to see anybody or even to talk to them on a computer unless they understand I may well cancel at the very last minute. I literally don't know until that moment whether I'm going to be able to speak to somebody or meet them or anything. So if they understand that, then yeah.
But you become very good at forgiving yourself for letting people down, don't you, as well?
Oh, I'm good at doing that, I think, now. See, that's progress. That's an element of being shit in life. I would never have done that. I'd have been mortified if I'd had to cancel things or be so what I would call flaky. Yeah, and I'm really good at that now. So that's an element of being shit I'm really good at. We've come up to half an hour already.
Can I just ask you about something else to do with shit? Do you remember your poo canoes?
Yes.
I think you should share the recipe.
Oh no, I can't admit to this. Right. So with all these I don't post a lot about recipes anymore. So one healthy thing, they've got another name. It's an American thing. You get a thing of celery, and they put peanut butter in. But because I don't know whether mold is an element of mine or not. I don't eat peanut butters, but I eat almond butter. So you get that, and you put peanut butter or nut butter, whatever nut butter inside it, and hold on, ants on a log. That's what I think Americans call it. And then they put little currants or raisins in it, and it's supposed to be ants on a log. And I said, I told my niece about this. I said, oh no, I don't think that looks like ants on a log. That looks like poo in a canoe. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, well, look, and I went into this long explanation. That just looks like a whole load of people have sat in a canoe and they've all pooed themselves.
You know what you could do? You could tweak it and put jelly beans in instead.
The whole jelly bean. Oh, that's a whole other conversation, isn't it? That we have about we should actually have a conversation where we all discuss that program. Maybe get a few of us on and have a chat about that program.
If anyone wants to write in with any questions for us about that program, let us know.
We'd love to know about that, and any topics at all, actually. So we should
and would you like a few Vaccine Injured people, a few more of us, to do a chat about that program, a debate about it? You'll hear some views about what people think of it.
That would be good. We want more feedback. People send in. It was lovely when this person sent me the suggestion for a chat, and I hope it's been a little bit interesting. I don't know how helpful it might have been, but here's to being shit.